Have you ever felt that cold, sickening dread that creeps up your spine when something is fundamentally wrong? That's been my life for the past few months. I need to tell someone about this before I lose my mind completely. My husband Ethan and I had been married for just over 3 years when it happened. We were living in Blackwood Falls, a sleepy town where nothing ever happens, until it does. The night of October 17th, 2020, he was driving home from his shift at St. Mary's Hospital. It was raining, not just rain, but that heavy, violent downpour that makes the world disappear beyond your headlights. A semi-truck hydroplaned across the center line. The driver had been awake for over 30 hours. They said Ethan died instantly. Massive head trauma. His body was so mangled they recommended a closed casket. I insisted on seeing him anyway, a decision that still haunts my nightmares. Grieving him through the isolation of the pandemic nearly destroyed me. I would wake up gasping for air, my nightgown soaked with sweat, convinced I could hear his footsteps in our hallway. The house we'd bought together became a mausoleum, every corner filled with painful memories. But slowly, agonizingly, I put myself back together. Therapy twice a week. Grief support groups on Zoom. I even started seeing someone new last month, Victor, a kind-eyed literature professor who doesn't mind when I sometimes call him by the wrong name. Then, 3 weeks ago, the messages began. I was at Bellini's, that upscale Italian place downtown, when my phone vibrated against the table. Victor was telling me about his students when I glanced down. A text from Ethan's number. My heart stopped. His phone had been destroyed in the crash. The account closed. The number deactivated. The message was blank. Just a single space, as if someone had pressed the spacebar and hit send. "Are you okay?" Victor asked, reaching across the table. "You've gone pale." I forced a smile. "Fine. Just a spam text." For days later, another one came. This time, just a single period. Dot. I was alone in bed when it came through, the soft blue glow of my phone illuminating my bedroom. The room suddenly felt 10 degrees colder. The shadows in the corners seemed to stretch toward me. I told myself it was probably a system error. Old numbers get recycled, right? Maybe someone else had Ethan's number now, accidentally texting me. But why no words? Why just punctuation? The third message came when I was getting ready for another date with Victor. A semicolon and a dash. Dash. It was no coincidence anymore. The messages always seemed to know when I was trying to move forward with my life. I started keeping a log. The texts came at specific times, 3:17 a.m., 10:44 p.m., 5:23 a.m. After a while, I realized these weren't random times. They were significant moments from our relationship. Our first kiss was at 3:17 a.m. after a concert. He proposed at 10:44 p.m. on the rooftop of our first apartment building. And 5:23 a.m. was when he'd leave for early shifts, always kissing my forehead before he went. How could anyone know these times except Ethan? As the anniversary of his death approached, the messages increased. 1 a day became 3 a day. Then 5. They were still just punctuation, but they seemed more urgent. More frantic. Comma. I could feel something building. Something terrible. The morning of the anniversary, I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing continuously on the nightstand. 27 new messages, all from his number. All sent while I was sleeping. I scrolled through them with trembling fingers. They were becoming more complex. Dash. It hit me then. Morse code. I grabbed a notepad and frantically transcribed them. HELP. I dropped the phone like it had burned me. My throat closed up. That cold, visceral terror that lives in your bone marrow erupted through my body. I went to the police station on Maple Street, my hands shaking so badly I could barely drive. Officer Reyes listened patiently, but I could see the skepticism in his eyes. Probably just a technical glitch, Ms. Winters. Or maybe a cruel prank. I'll put in a request to trace the source, but these things take time. You don't understand, I insisted. Today's the anniversary. October 17th. The messages are getting worse. I understand your distress, he said, in that practiced, detached tone cops use when they think you're overreacting. We'll be in touch when we have more information. I went home and did what I've done every year since Ethan died. At exactly 7 p.m., I put on his favorite movie, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, and opened a bottle of his favorite whiskey, Lagavulin 16. The texts were coming every few minutes now. SOS. The lights in my living room flickered. Once. Twice. Then held steady again. I miss you, I whispered to the empty space beside me on the couch. If this is you, please, just tell me what you want. My phone rang. Not a text, a call. From his number. My hands shook violently as I answered. Hello? Static. Then, buried beneath layers of interference, a voice. Distorted. Distant. But unmistakably his. Tia. Ethan? I whispered, tears streaming down my face. Is that you? Not safe. The voice crackled through waves of static. Behind you. The line went dead. I turned around slowly, every muscle in my body tense with fear. Nothing. But as I turned back to the TV, I caught movement from the corner of my eye. A shadow shifting unnaturally near the kitchen doorway. Too tall. Too thin. The proportions all wrong. My phone buzzed again. Run. I bolted for the front door, but as my hand touched the knob, the lights went out. All of them. At once. The sudden darkness was absolute. Disorienting. I couldn't see my own hand in front of my face. Then my phone screen lit up, casting an eerie blue glow around me. Another text. Attic. I froze. We never used the attic. It had been sealed off when we bought the house. Ethan always said we'd renovate it someday, but we never got around to it. Something creaked above me. Footsteps. Heavy and deliberate, dragging across the ceiling. My phone rang again. I answered, pressing it to my ear. Cassie. His voice was clearer now. Urgent. The attic. She's in the attic. Who is? I choked out. Moira. Ethan's mother. The woman who had screamed at me at his funeral for not crying enough. Who had accused me of never loving him. Who had shown up drunk at my house 6 months after his death, saying I had stolen her son from her. I hadn't spoken to her since I got a restraining order against her last year. There was a crash from upstairs. Then another. Getting closer. The power came back on suddenly, the lights almost blinding after the darkness. And there, at the top of the stairs, stood Moira. Her eyes were wild, her hair matted and greasy. In her right hand was a butcher knife from my own kitchen. You're trying to erase him, she snarled, her voice barely human. Dating other men. Laughing again. Being happy. You don't deserve to be happy when my son is rotting in the ground. She started down the stairs, one slow step at a time. Moira, please, I begged. Ethan wouldn't want this. Don't you dare speak for him, she screamed, spittle flying from her mouth. You never understood him like I did. No one did. My phone buzzed in my hand. I glanced down. Basement. Gun. Lock. Ethan had kept a gun in a lockbox in the basement. For protection, he'd said. I'd forgotten all about it after he died. I ran for the basement door, Moira's footsteps thundering behind me. I slammed the door and locked it, then stumbled down the dark stairs, guided only by the light of my phone. The lockbox was on a shelf in the back corner. My hands trembled as I input the code, our anniversary date, and pulled out the pistol. I'd never fired a gun in my life. The basement door splintered above me. Moira's rage-filled scream echoed down the stairwell. You poisoned him against me. You took him away. My phone lit up again. I love you. I'm sorry. The basement door gave way with a crash. Moira stood at the top of the stairs, silhouetted against the light from the hallway, knife raised. I raised the gun with both hands. She charged down the stairs toward me. Underscore 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 underscore. The police found evidence that Moira had been living in my attic for weeks. She had drilled small holes in the ceiling to spy on me. Installed hidden cameras in my bedroom, my bathroom, my living room. She'd been watching every moment of my attempt to rebuild my life without Ethan. They discovered she'd been taking medications for schizophrenia but had stopped months ago. In her makeshift attic nest, they found dozens of printouts of my social media posts, photos of me with Victor, all defaced with red marker. She'd written whore and traitor across my face hundreds of times. What they couldn't explain was the phone. When they checked the records, Ethan's old number had indeed been reactivated, 3 months earlier, under Moira's name. She had been sending the punctuation messages to torment me, to make me think I was being haunted. But the phone itself was never found. Not on her body, not in the attic, not anywhere in the house. And according to the cell carrier's records, the call that came through at 8:37 p.m., the one where I heard Ethan's voice warning me, and the final text messages directing me to the gun, they were never sent. I kept the final text message. It's still on my phone. Sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep, I stare at those words. I love you. I'm sorry. The police psychologist says it's a trauma response. That in moments of extreme stress, our minds can manufacture hallucinations so vivid they feel real. That there are logical explanations for everything, if we look hard enough. But here's what I know for certain. 3 nights ago, I woke up at 3:17 a.m. exactly. My phone was glowing in the darkness. A new message. Let me go. I've deleted Ethan's contact information. I've changed my number. I've even moved to a new city. But sometimes, in the static of a bad connection, or in the white noise of my shower, I swear I can still hear his voice, trying to break through from whatever plane of existence has trapped him. And I wonder, what if Moira's violence tore something open? Some barrier between worlds that was never meant to be breached? What if, by saving my life, Ethan damned himself to something worse than death? What if he's still watching over me, unable to move on, trapped in some in-between place of frequencies and static? All I know is that I've stopped dating. I've stopped trying to move forward. Because what if my happiness is exactly what's keeping him tethered here? So that's my story. I don't expect you to believe me. I'm not sure I would, if I were you. But I sleep with my phone in a drawer now, powered off. And still, sometimes, when I wake up in the middle of the night, the screen is glowing in the darkness, waiting for me to see what new message has come through from a number that shouldn't exist, from a man who should be at peace. Have you had a similar experience? Feel free to share in the comments below. This story is purely fictional. Any resemblance to real events is purely coincidental. If you enjoyed this story, please like and leave a comment. Your support means the world to me.